Hey, this is Mike Shank, and this is the At Speed podcast presented by Rocky Fork Company.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, racing fans across the nation and around the world. Another episode of the At Speed podcast starring Mike Shank with yours truly, Tim Mayer, navigating from time to time. And we've got a special guest again with us today. His name is AJ Allmendinger. AJ, say hi to the fans, my man.
You guys are really starting to run low on guests here, huh?
Yeah.
Start inviting me.
No, man. We're not scraping the bottom of the barrel. We're scraping that good stuff off the top. I mean, as Mike definitely wanted you in on part of this because you've been part and parcel to the rise of Meyer Shank Racing in some key moments, not the least of which was 2012. You know, the Daytona 500, the 24 Hours of Daytona 50th anniversary victory. And I'm just number one, what's it been like to be affiliated with Meyer Shank? And number two, what did that win mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of started back in 2006 and really unexpectedly when I was running with the Champ Car team that I was on at Sport, and Mike had known our driver coach, Barry Waddell, and the competition director there, Jeremy Dale. So they kind of got me and Justin Wilson together, said, hey, would you want to run the Rolex 24-hour? I said, okay. And had never met Mike before. And, that really just blossomed into a relationship at the racetrack and away from the racetrack. And, I tell everybody he's one of my closest friends. He's a big brother to me. We've been there for each other in the ups and downs when I've needed him and when he's needed me. And, to this day and to the day I die, I'll do whatever it takes for Meyer Shank. So,
Yeah. The great thing too was you and Justin drove. Y'all had the same size seat, right? So that was no problem.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a great idea. Nothing like sports car racing at its finest when you get a driver that's 6'4.5" and me 5'6" when I'm on my tippy toes. So those were some of the best times arguing with Justin. I'm like, are you sure we can't get it a little closer? As his knees were getting bloodied by the gear shifter and the steering wheel. So. When he broke his back at Mid-Ohio in the IndyCar race, I was the first one to text him, and I was always so caring. I said, man, I hope you're okay, but does this mean you're shorter now and we can get the seat closer to the steering wheel next year at Rolex? He said, no, dude. So
I was going to say. Hey, Mike.
It's been some great times.
Oh, heck yeah, man. Well, Mike, what attracted you to AJ? I mean, I remember covering him when he was in Champ Car, and, he didn't remember much of me, but I remember in Cleveland, for example, I mean, this guy was fast. And given the opportunities, he could be at the pointy end of the field, so to speak. But what was the attraction of AJ Allmendinger?
Well, at the time, and I guess it would have been 2006, and we finished second. We almost won the race actually that year. It was one of our 3 or 4 that got away from us probably a little bit in our career. AJ and I are on what was this year? 14, AJ, or 13? I can't remember.
I don't know, man. It just all runs together. I mean, all I know is you're the longest relationship I've ever had in my life. So
besides
a lot.
So listen, there was never question about the speed and the quality of what he can do on the racetrack. But as I got to know him, and we went down this path together, a lot of other things emerged, right?
Yeah,
and he's not unlike Oswaldo that we've talked to this week. Meaning what comes first is people, and that's where I think he bases his life off of also, right? And once you got people that believe in you and are willing to be there whenever, both sides of the equation, they just step up even more. I can remember a couple times. We had a great run the first time in 06, and then we had, rough conditions for a couple years, and I'd sit at the back of the car at the end of the 24. I'm like, and he's kind of peaking, right? Like everyone's seeing what he can do.
Yeah.
Not peaking, but he, a lot more people are aware that he can do more than just Indy cars.
Yes.
And I'm like, listen, dude, you don't owe me anything. You've done this. And he's like, what are you talking about? I'll see you next year. And walks away. And that was kind of early on. And I guess right there, I thought, all right, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to get him in a car every year. And we've been able to do that all but 1 year since I've known him.
Yeah, AJ, you've driven for a lot of people. I mean, what's the click with you and Mike more than anything else? What just stands out about the relationship? Is it just there's no BS? You know what I mean? I mean, you know where you stand each you don't BS each other? I mean, what just stands out about him and your relationship?
Well, I mean, for me, at first, it's just his passion for motorsports, and it goes back to that people side of it. Really, Mike's organization has grown now, especially with the IndyCar team. But some of the people that were on my car in 2006, I mean, they're still there at the race shop. And when Mike was going through tough times where he was barely keeping 2 cars going and probably couldn't afford all those people, he'd still pay them. And he'd still make sure they were taken care of. And it's just Mike's passion for the sport, for the people that are around him. And what Mike talked about there with me saying, I remember that day because it was probably 2010, Mike, when we had maybe 09 or 10, 2 years we had a dominant car and it broke. Yeah. And that was when he said that to me. And I said, I was like, get out of here. Like, it's not happening. His exact words were, go drive for Chip Ganassi because you deserve to win a Rolex. Wow. I said, brother, we're going to win this thing together or we're going to die trying. And it's also the same point of when I get out of the car and I feel like I've let him down. I said, Mike, man, I don't need to be in this thing. Go get somebody that can make it happen. And he's like, shut up. Like, get out of here. Like, you're fine. And that's what it is we have each other's back. We know that we're in it together. And it's just each year it seems like it grows. And that's part of the Rolex. The Rolex 24 is such a historical race. It's so special to win the race, to be a part of it. But I don't see me driving in it other than Michael Shank. Like it just, that's what the Rolex means to me, is our relationship at that racetrack. And of course. You've
waited too long now. It's too freaking late.
Yeah, I know. So that's it, So I love him to death, and I love being at the racetrack. And I've always told him since the day we started, man, if we can do it full time or do it more, I definitely want to, because it's like we both have the same anger too. Like when it's bad, like it's maybe it's not good. We feed off each other, but
probably not.
That's what I love about it. We're the same person when it comes to all this.
Yeah, I mean, he's a kindred spirit, right, Mike? Is that the best way of putting it?
Well, yeah. I mean, this is all. But I mean, we're in the same boat, right? This is all we do for a living. If we don't perform, if we don't do our little dance and finish in the top 3 and win some races, we don't get to have these places we live in, right? This is how we all survive. Yeah. And so there's a bit of pressure. He's got folks that depend on him. I got folks that depend on me. And there's some inherent pressure there to perform. And we don't get a free ticket, Tim. We don't have trust funds. And that's not it's a bad thing. I'd love to have a trust fund. I wish I was a trust fund.
Me too, baby.
I'm just telling you that when the carnivorous beer virus comes along here, I'm worried, right? Yeah. And same with AJ, he's got a lot going on, but we're all just kind of hustling to keep work here. So I think we bring some intensity to it because we're forced to. I mean, we have to. Not only that, we're super competitive people. When someone does us wrong, we're going to do them wrong twice.
Yeah,
right?
I like how you call that carnivorous, because it does seem like a meat-eating virus. That is for sure.
That's what I'm saying.
But by the way, if things do get tough, you could pawn one of those guitars, man. I mean, what the heck? They's got to be worth something.
That one right there is the one AJ won for me, the green one right there.
Seriously.
And that was for the Rolex 24 PRS guitars, which are a fantastic guitar. We're a sponsor of the series then, and we won that guitar, and it means a ton to me. And I've been offered, and it's a collector's piece, and I've been offered money for it. I'll never sell it. I may give it to AJ at some point, actually. But, I mean, it's a really cool piece. It shows, how far we've come. Tim, I got to tell you, there are legitimately 5 times, 4 without question, 5 maybe, that we should have won that race. We had the best setup, the best car, the best drivers. And it's just not been that kind to us. AJ's finished second twice for me there, won it, finished third once, we've been all over the place. We have success there, but we're still angry because of, and I'm thinking 2016, absolutely the dominant machine. Yeah. We're leading by 40 seconds when the motor decided to let go, and there's some anger in that, right?
Yeah. I was going to ask you, AJ, what is there anything worse than finishing second in a 24-hour race. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the effort that's gone into it, all winter.
Finishing second in anything really just sucks.
Oh, yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah.
But the stories that Mike's talk about, there's so many times, 16 was one. 2000, we had back-to-back years, 2009, 2010, that the cars were just like stupid fast, like just laughing, like them telling me to slow down. I'm like, I can't go any slower than this. And but that's what,
yeah.
I don't know if it makes us sane or insane, but that's what keeps us coming back, because it's those heartbreaks. Yeah. 2012 was, and looking back at it now, is the most special win I've ever had in my life for so many reasons. But that's fun to celebrate. But I can promise you, for both Mike and I, it's the heartbreaks of what drives you to come back to it, because it really rips your insides out. I mean, 2019 was a perfect example in the GT car. Monsoon rain. I'm in the car. I haven't driven in the rain in how many years? Like, I'm hanging on to it. We're just driving away from the field.
Yeah.
And waiting for the red flag to come out and throw the checkered, and it doesn't happen. And we have to pit. I have to get out of the car because I've run out of time in it. And our other driver, Trent Hinman, couldn't get back through the field. And it's like, then they throw the red and the checker, and you're like, it's just like you leave that place so many times in heartbreak.
That's the fifth one. That's the fifth win I'm talking about.
So you get heartbroken, but it's the team around you. And that's why I don't ever want to do that race without Mike Shank, because it's that group around you that drives you to come back and do it again and again, whether it's heartbreak or not. So it's but that's like Mike talked about, it's the people that make it special. And that's why the 2012 win was so special, because myself, Oswaldo Negri, that I had known since I started in Skip Barber in 2002.
Yeah.
Or 2001, really. John Pugh, and then my teammate Justin Wilson. Like, we had done it for so long together, and I knew being in victory lane was going to be special at Daytona. I don't care what you drive. Winning at Daytona is special, especially the Rolex 24. But being able to share that with those drivers, with Mike Shank, with everybody in the team, that was more special than I ever imagined, as many times as we tried.
Hey, Mike, that's why this is special, having AJ on as much as anybody else in this lineup we've had on in this thing. Is that was validation. I mean, you guys had done some things before, but that was validation, right, of your team, your little team from Pataskala or Etna, the Etna exit off I-70, that it was the pinnacle, right?
Yeah, for me, it's just respect. I always,
that's what I meant.
I race for respect. Sometimes I feel like we don't get it like we deserve as a team. And that race legitimized, even though we were the same people doing the same thing for multiple years before that, nothing's different. Suddenly we win this race, and it changed everything for us. And it's still in effect today, Tim.
Yeah.
And you can point to a lot of reasons of kind of where we're at today leads directly back to that. And, AJ was a big part of that. I truly wish we would have had more wins, and I certainly think we deserved them. But at the end of the day, it's worked out exactly like it was supposed to. Through all my trials and tribulations, AJ's, we're both still racing. We're both still making a living racing. And I think we will for years to come here.
AJ, what makes the Mike Shank team special in your opinion? Is it obviously he's got one of maybe the cleanest shop in racing worldwide, but I mean, what stands out about just the team itself?
I mean, it's easy. It's leadership. It starts with Mike, and then it just continues with probably the hardest working group I've ever seen in my life. And the never give up attitude. There's been a couple of times, 2007, for instance, we had a lot of issues to start the race. So we were like 25 laps down. A driver that will remain nameless in this crashes the race car.
Paul Tracy.
All right. Mike said it. So and we weren't going to win we were 25 laps down. We had several issues to start the race. And the right side of the car is basically just cleaned off. And we're at 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I'm the next guy in. And all the guys are like, well, what do you think? Should we fix it? And like, nah, it looks like it's done. And Mike's like, nope, fix it. We're going to finish this race.
Wow.
And they spent 2 hours fixing a race car that was never going to win the race because we were 25 laps down before the wreck. Definitely wasn't going to win it after. And sure enough, they put it back together throughout the morning, and we got back out there and we finished the race. And it's that type of personality and that type of attitude that it starts with Mike, and then it just trickles down through the whole shop. And that's why I love being a part of the team, because they're never going to give up, good or bad.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, you personally, what are you up to these days? Explain to people, I think your commentary, your analysis when you're on television is excellent and stuff. What have you got going on this year in that regard, and also in racing?
Tim, I'm 38 years old, just trying to figure out what I want to do in life. It's I'm very fortunate that I work for NBC Sports through doing the commentary for the IMSA races. I do some of the NASCAR Americas before this pandemic. I'm not sure what's going to go on right now.
Who knows?
But and they still allow me the opportunity to get in race cars and race, because they feel like it allows me to be better as a commentator if I'm feeling exactly what's going on. So have some Xfinity races. I did 5 races last year with Colleague Racing. We won at the Roval. We had planned on 8 this year. It may actually turn out to be more this year with what's going on, but we planned 8 races with Colleague Racing this year. And, after the 2018 NASCAR season, I had been beaten down pretty bad, I felt like, for a couple of years. It's a tough schedule. It's a tough schedule when it's good, doing 40, 41 weekends a year. But it's definitely a hard schedule when it's going bad. And the last couple of years were not the greatest years. So I definitely needed a break. Last year, stepping away and only doing a few races, probably I got that passion back for wanting to be back in a race car. I keep trying to talk to old Shank here, say, hey, man, we've talked about it for 15 years. Let's do this full time one way or another. So doing that right now, and what the future holds, not sure.
Hey, you touched on it, though. Those last couple of years you talked about where it just wasn't going right. How tough is that mentally? Forget about physically, obviously, there's a toll, but mentally, how tough is it when you don't have the equipment, or, you don't feel, I don't know if confidence isn't the right word, because you're still going around the track, but how tough is that on a race car driver who knows he's pretty fast when he's in good stuff? You know what I'm saying? How tough is that? How does that beat you up?
I really think the NASCAR, just the series in general, it makes it challenging in the sense that you go to a lot of racetracks that are 1.5 mile, 2 mile racetracks, that aerodynamics play a huge role in how fast the car is. You unload it and you put it on the racetrack, especially the last couple of years that I was in it, that was kind of the speed you're going to have. Sure, you could change some springs and some shocks around a little bit and maybe find a couple hundredths, maybe a tenth here, but what you unloaded as in that group of cars, you probably were going to run that whole weekend. And as a driver, it makes it tough because, I worked hard. The last couple of years, I probably worked the hardest I ever had. And you run 25th and you feel like I did as good of a job as possible there. Like I didn't make any mistakes. And it, at least, and Mike knows, let's be 100% honest here. I got a lot of demons inside my head that I fight every day. So it was one of those times it would go to a dark place and I didn't know. I'm like, am I not fast anymore? I know my teammate, he ain't any faster than me, but what does that mean? So that's what makes it challenging in NASCAR. In sports cars and Indy cars, you still have to have great equipment. Got to get the setup right. But I feel like on road, especially road courses, a driver can make a difference. At least you can take a 15th place car, maybe make it a 10th place car. Yeah. In an oval, especially on a 1.5 mile, 2 mile, you could take a 15th place car and try to make it faster by driving, and you probably make it a 25th place car. So, it was a challenge. I went to some tough places, so a break was definitely needed.
What do you find from your experience that makes you good as an analyst? That makes you good with your commentary? Because I think you're excellent at it. But what is it? Have you always found yourself able to talk freely, talk openly, talk honestly? Do you think that's as much of it as anything else?
I appreciate that. I always think I need work on my commentary, so I'm always trying to improve. It's definitely different when the cameras turn on and you're talking to a live audience instead of just talking to your buddies about it or talking inside the garage area.
Yeah.
But the first thing it really helps is I have great partners to work with, great people, Lee Diffie and Calvin Fish on the IMSA telecast. That was the biggest thing. I was like, do I need to know the right front tire changer? I mean, because Calvin Fish, he pretty much he's been in the sport for so long. He knows, it seems like, every person's name and everything that they do, their children's name. I'm like, oh my gosh, is this what I need to learn? He's like, no. Like, you're here straight up to talk about driving a race car. What moves are they making? What are they thinking? So that's kind of what I try to take on as that role, is the fact that, if a guy's trying to make a move, a driver's looking at making a move, what are they thinking? Him or her? What are they planning? What just happened right there? And try to talk about it in the moment and give fans kind of an insight of maybe what's going on into a driver's mind, which is honestly scary to look into a driver's mind. But
it is. Yeah, you need a flashlight for sure. Go ahead.
For sure, it helped. But Lee Diffie and Calvin Fish helped me a lot with that.
Hey, I want to ask you, man. I'm sitting here, I'm talking to you, and I'm just having this flashback, deja vu of me and several guys interviewing you at the Champ Car race in Cleveland. I can't remember the year, but you were in Champ Car in that middle part of the 2000s. But we're in that terminal, the airport terminal building, where they brought you guys that were really good that weekend, and we got to talk to you guys. But did you come along, do you think, at the wrong time, or how would you explain what was going on in that whole era of IndyCar, Champ Car? The IRL was doing its thing. Obviously, there was a melding finally and stuff, but I don't know how weird was that, trying to find your footing in a series that was probably going to go. You didn't know if it was going to go away the next year or not, et cetera. Just as you look back on that, how strange was that time?
It was a tough time because there was always questions. I remember my rookie year in 2004. I mean, literally 2-3 weeks before the season opener at Long Beach, the series was disappearing.
Yeah.
And Jerry Forsyth and Kevin Kalkoven and Carl Russo behind the scenes bought it, or really kept it going, however you wanted to look at it. But to say coming at the wrong time, sure, I would have loved to been a couple of years earlier, running the late 90s, early 2000s. I fell in love with IndyCar racing at that point with kart. The cars were phenomenal. Mm-hmm. The speed, the drivers, Zanardi, Montoya, Vassar, PT, Michael Andretti. You could go on down the list of so many great drivers through that Dario. But I also look at it, I was very fortunate because, as Mike stated earlier, my parents had no money. They mortgaged their house 3 times to keep me going. I would send press releases when I was in Barber Dodge to all the Champ Car teams, and I'd get replies like, "We don't need to see these." And I said, "Yes, you will, because you're going to know my name, and you're going to, as soon as I come introduce myself, you're going to know exactly who I am."
Yeah.
And I was just fortunate in the fact that I had to go win races to continue the next weekend, but I also got lucky with Carl Russo. I came ready at the right time when he wanted to spend a ton of money racing Toyota Atlantics to move in a Champ Car, and I happened to be the guy that he chose.
Yeah.
And then from there, we departed, and Jerry Forsyth picked me up, and I won all the races once that happened. And then at that point, I knew Champ Car was going away. IRL was going to buy it. I did not want to spend my life racing, and it sounds weird that I went to NASCAR, but I did not want to spend my life racing ovals in IndyCar, because at that point in IRL, we'd see it time and time again, whether it was Kenny Breck, Briscoe, Sam Schmidt, down the line. The gnarly wrecks. And I didn't want to do that. And I didn't know if IRL was going to pick up a lot of road courses. So with my sponsorship through Red Bull, they wanted to go cup racing. I didn't want to go cup racing right away because I didn't want to take that task on. I wanted to do maybe some Busch and trucks, but they wanted to go cup racing. And I got in there and dug my feet in and clawed and scraped and made a career out of it.
How crazy was that, though, to go from a car with ground effects to a car that, you know what I'm saying? How crazy was that?
Do you ever see the the movie Talladega Nights?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, when Ricky Bobby went back out on the racetrack for the first time after he'd flipped and he's running like 26 miles per hour. I remember that was my first time at Texas. Like, I'm out there in practice, like, okay, I think I'm getting after it here. And Dale Jr. went around the outside of me, and I was like, is that another car? What? Is that a car? And they're like, yeah, you're 1.4 seconds off the pace. I'm like, oh my God. Wow. So it wasn't ideal. I didn't go in there blindly like, okay, I'm just going to go win races with a team that's never done this and a manufacturer that's never been in the sport. Yeah. I wanted to run trucks for a while. I wanted to run Bush for a while at the time, but that wasn't their plan. Now they learned through me, and that's how they brought Scott Speed in, running ARCA and running trucks. But you know, I mean, you could say it's unfortunate or it's fortunate, because a lot of drivers that have had a ton of talent didn't get those opportunities, and I did. I
was going to say, man, you've had quite the career. You know, you had the suspension, but you came back from that. Was that a dark time for you, or did you just know that things would get figured out? And you know what I mean? Just what was that like going through?
No, I mean, it's the only thing that I wish out of that I could have redone was not let Roger Penske down. That was the one thing out of all of it. You know, whether I took a hit in the media, whatever, I don't care. Like, but just to have to look Roger Penske in the eyes and know that I let him down by a mistake. The way it played out, I didn't even know what was going on, but that's my own fault. But because of that, a lot of great things came out of it. I kind of got everything financially back in place where I needed it to be. When something like that happens, you truly learn who your core group of friends are and who sticks together. I mean, heck, really because of it may not have happened. I met my wife because of it, because I was running because of being fired. Roger Penske rehired me. I went to Indianapolis and ran a dream come true, running the Indy 500 for Roger Penske. And during that time, met my wife. And so, yeah, that was the one thing I wish I could change, is not letting Roger down. But other than that, my life is a whole lot better because of it.
And Mike, you stood by him. I mean, you're one of his best buddy. I'm one of his best friends. You stood by him during that time. But then, you know, what is it about AJ that's the attract? What attracts you most about him? His personality is obvious. But like we talked about a while ago, y'all kind of have the same approach to life, right? From the standpoint you want to get from each day what you can get from each day.
Loyalty and respect. I mean, it's just what he is. It's just how his parents raised him. It's just what he's about once he's in with you, you know? And listen, I can think of 100 stories. We've gotten in a lot of trouble together. We've had a lot of fun. We've had ups and downs. I'll tell you a story real quick. I was, 2012, it was just a tough year for all of us. He and I both personally had, we were trying to get through them. I remember I came home one day from a race, and the roof on my house had come apart from a big hailstorm. And so I got all this crap shit in my life back here, even though we had just won the 2012 race and all that. And, he's like, Shank, just tell me where you need it. I can pay for it. Just give me tell me where you need the money. And I didn't ask. I wasn't. This is the type of guy he is. He would do it today, right? Yeah. We're not even talking about the racing side now, right? Where the racing side's the racing side, but it's just similar people brought up, and he's a West Coast guy, I'm Midwest, but we still had parents that probably were on the same wavelength growing up, and taught us about responsibility and loyalty and treating people decent, and it just kind of grows from there. On the racing side, in my opinion, AJ doesn't get enough credit. He certainly had tons of results, made a great living and all that. But when you look at it, Tim, you and I have talked about this, what makes a great driver. In fact, we talked about it with a lot of people here recently. And I told you, he's like a Scott Dixon or anybody really good. And AJ cuts up and has fun on screen. That's what he does, right? But people really don't know actually how good he is in the car, right? Like what he can do, how he can calculate strategies on his own while there's a person. You look at a race like the 2012 Rolex, AJ was, and you go back and YouTube it, he had a battle with Alan McNish. At the time, Alec McNish was the top of the sports car game in the world. And AJ schooled him pretty good, right? And that was all calculated. That wasn't just happened and he did it. He thought about it. He executed when Alan did him wrong or did him right, and moved with it and talked calmly the whole time. So that means he can take these inputs and translate them into something great. And that's the difference between good, in which he and I know tons of friends, good race car drivers, but in great. And that's the delta that people don't know about because they don't get to be on the radio or see the data or anything like that.
AJ, is there anything? Yeah, JJ, is there anything better in the world than when you have a car? I'm talking about, we can talk about it anyway. Is there anything better in the world than when you have a car where the setup suits you, where, like you said, you think something and it happens? If you follow my drift, because I think what sets you great guys apart from just an average guy is you kind of think your way around a course and your body just does the things and the car does the things. Is there anything better than that?
No, I mean, it's.
And how many times have you felt that, I guess? Go ahead.
Well, I mean, the sad thing is I've been very fortunate to drive a lot of different race cars. And that's something that I thank God every day that I'm able to have the opportunities and people like Mike that have wanted me to come drive the race cars and give me opportunities to go out there and showcase that. I mean, if we go through the Rolex, what was it? 08, I guess it'd have been 08, 09. Those 2 years, the car was phenomenal. 2012, the car was phenomenal. Those Daytona prototypes back in the day, those things, I just got along with them so well. I loved driving them. 16, the Ligier, that car, it took me a while to get used to. I didn't have a lot of time in it, but that thing was like stupid fast that you could just drive around and have fun with. But, my thing is, because of the way I was brought up and knowing that, heck, any race could be my last race. And it's worked great for me because I've had a long-term career, but it's also worked against me in the sense I drive every lap almost like it's my last one because I'm always trying to prove, not to the outside world, but prove to myself every lap that I drive a race car, you deserve to be in this over somebody else. And we've had some good times. One that wasn't very good was Mike had a brand new race car at VIR and invited me to come test with them just because I live close to VIR. Said, hey, come shake this down with Oz. And within 10 laps, he was loading it back up onto the trailer because I had backed it in the fence. Because I was out there trying to prove to myself, because nobody else was there, that I need to go out there and show I'm the best one in it. So I felt like an ass there. I told Mike, do not pay me this year. He was like, no, dude.
Another 50 grand I'll never see.
Yeah. He's like, I was like, you don't pay me. Like, he's like, no, it happens, man. I'm like, no, I will not. I'll rip the check up as soon as you give it to me. Like, this is so embarrassing. So that's just been my thing. I drive every lap like it's my last one because I'm proving to myself each lap, like, you belong in this car.
Yeah. Last two, because we're running out of time here. Last two, number one, I always ask three more after that. But last two, what was that moment when you were a kid or where you knew that you were, I'm not trying to get you to blow smoke up your tailpipe, so to speak, but you knew you were really good at this, but you also had a feel for driving a race car on the edge. When did that strike you, AJ?
I say this not trying to downplay it. I've never felt that.
Huh.
I constantly am trying to prove to myself that I can be better. And I mean, it's no joke. This is where I tell people, friends that I play golf with almost every day now, I have a great life. I can't, yeah, sure. I can't save up for a yacht or private planes, but I've done good enough to live a lifestyle of playing golf most days. Yeah. And this is what I tell everybody when I go out and play with them, because I'm the same way on the golf course of trying to get better. I said, what makes me very lucky at 38 years old to be semi-retired, playing golf a lot, picking and choosing really what I want to do, is also what makes me the most miserable person in life. And that is every day I'm not good enough and go out there and be better. And that's me as a kid. I mean, I hated losing just because I was letting myself down and letting my parents down. And that goes on with sponsors and people like Mike. Like, he sees it. He sees I can do the fastest lap of the race, and I come and say, sorry, Mike, that's not good enough. And he's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, no, I can be better. And that's the truth. I've never had that feeling that I'm some special driver, some badass out there. It's every day I feel like I'm not very good, and you got to go prove it to yourself to be better. That's
funny because there's a coach I covered for a while named Urban Meyer, was the head coach at Ohio State football. And, but no, what's funny, Mike, is that was his approach was, don't tell me what you did yesterday. Don't tell me what you did 10 minutes ago. What are you doing now to get better? And some guys are driven that way and some people aren't, And last thing I wanted to ask you, like you just talked about a while ago about, your dealings with Roger Penske. You've been around some pretty good team owners, and maybe you can blow smoke up Mike's tailpipe here, but what do Roger Penske and Mike Shank have in common?
The true care of people. Like Roger would blow my mind because he's got how many businesses he's got? It seems like a million businesses along with a ton more money to go.
He never sleeps, so that tells you all you need to know. Yeah.
But what would always blow my mind was he could walk in a shop and it'd be the back corner of his giant race shop and go, hey, Bill. And I'm like, who the heck is Bill? How long has he been here for? And he could, and it's like, and he could, how's your wife? How's your kids? Oh, your kid just had a child, right? Baby girl. And I'm like, how do you know all this? And it's the same deal. It's not the passion of racing, because so many people have passion for racing, but it's the passion to care for the people that are around you. And it's the same deal with Mike. That's what we talk about. And, Mike, Roger Penske's a world-renowned businessman, team owner, so successful. And Mike Shank is the same way in the sense that he's just never had the opportunity. He's never had the big sponsor. He's never had multiple companies that he owns that he can bring money from to help build his race teams. But Mike is the best team owner I've ever driven for. And Roger Penske is a person that, I love driving for and I respect so much. And he's maybe the best ever out there when it comes to success. But if Mike had the same opportunities and had the same sponsors or even just had those resources to pull in, he'd have 19 Borg Warners and championships in every series. So it's just we go with sometimes we can think of that we're fortunate. Sometimes we can think we're unfortunate, but some people get better opportunities than others. But Mike, for what he's done from where he started off to where he is now, it's pretty spectacular. And he doesn't get the way he says, sometimes I don't get the respect. Mike Shank is for sure doesn't get the respect that he deserves.
Mike, are you blushing? What do you think about all that, man? And just give me one more take on AJ Allmendinger. What makes him special?
Yeah, of course. I love him. He's just like a family member at this point. So, and I think we have some more years left in us. I don't think our story's totally done yet on the racetrack. So, but even when we're 60 years old, we'll probably be on him making me play golf or out on a boat somewhere just chilling. It's just we're just kind of the same type of people.
We'll still be in the clubs at 60. We'll be in the nightclubs.
We touched on half the crap we've gotten into. Not even half.
See, that's all we need is one of you guys to wear a GoPro camera on your cap when you go in the clubs. So that would be podcasting. No. That would be podcasting gold.
Tell you what, we do that when we have determined that is our final day of racing or needing to deal with any sponsors or companies, because I promise you, one of those we won't need to have to worry about racing after that, because nobody will want to hang with us.
I'll tell you what, I could tell some stories about clubs and stuff, especially Indianapolis back in the day when there would be drivers in the same place as me and a couple of guys were. But the difference between us and them was we weren't looking at turn one the next day at 220 miles an hour. But anyway, hey, AJ, thanks for being with us, my man. This was a choice. This was great, man. Appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
And Mike, once again, an At Speed podcast with Mike Shank, with Tim May navigating a little bit, has come to an end. And but we've really appreciated this trip down memory lane with AJ Allmendinger, and it's memories that just keep adding on, right, Mike?
Yes, sir. Can't wait for the next.
We'll see you next time, ladies and gentlemen.